Good morning. My name is Dana Berliner. I'm a senior attorney at the Institute for Justice. IJ started in 1991, and our very first case was representing African hair braiders in Washington, D.C., who were challenging city barriers that prevented them from starting their business. As soon as those barriers were lifted, entrepreneurship blossomed, with hundreds of braiders all over the city starting their businesses, employing people, and making a living for themselves and their families. As part of its nationwide campaign for entrepreneurship, IJ today is releasing studies of entrepreneurship across the country. And we found two things. First, we found that everywhere there are entrepreneurs bursting with energy, with creative ideas and the ability to start interesting small businesses and able to start jobs for themselves and for others. But we also found something else, and that is that in every city and every state, government is doing its best to suppress small businesses, to strangle creativity, and to stop businesses from starting and from growing because of red tape and regulations. We're here today to talk about Washington, D.C. and the barriers that have been created there. And next to speak will be Rob Frommer, who wrote the study of the Washington, D.C. barriers to entrepreneurship, as well as two entrepreneurs who are struggling to grow their business.
Thank you, Dana. I'm Robert Frommer, a staff attorney at the Institute for Justice. D.C. is a vibrant place full of entrepreneurship, but unfortunately, too often the D.C. government gets in the way. Year after year, the D.C. has been ranked the worst place for entrepreneurship and small business in the country. And as a result of that, even though there's been vibrant energy, there's been a thicket of rules and regulations put in place that have stifled creativity and limited businesses. One area that is seeing a vibrant renaissance, but is being held back because of government regulation, is vending. About a decade ago, a man named James Chu sold meatless burritos on the street. He was a fan favorite and everyone loved him. But one day he was shut down because rice was not on the list of DC's approved foods. It took him a year and a half of lobbying, writing, and even hiring his own food expert before he was able to vend. Unfortunately, that same kind of ideology of no in DC continues to this day. Outside of a small zone, there is absolutely no vending that can take place unless it satisfies very narrow rules and restrictions. If they get rid of that, that will allow entrepreneurs to blossom and for food offerings to be not just in the small demonstration zone, but throughout the city. One area that DC has gotten correct historically has been their taxi market. DC is one of the few places in the country that has an open model of taxi competition, which means that anybody who passes a test can strike out on their own and work hard and provide for both themselves and their family and their community. You would think this would be a lesson that would be copied, but instead it seems that DC is doing its best to shut down this market through not allowing people to take the test, not allowing new companies to form, and even last year, a bill that would have capped the number of taxis in the district. The DC is trying to do its best to turn that success into a failure. Things in DC have gotten so bad that even talking without the government's permission is illegal. And the Institute for Justice is fighting against that, and we're representing Bill Main and Tanya Edwards, who will speak next about their struggle and about what they offer to the community.
Thank you, Robert. My name is Bill Main.
And my name's Tanya Edwards.
And we are the owners of a small business struggling here in Washington under the draconian rule that we are not permitted to speak without a license.
It's this reason that we are fighting a case with the Institute for Justice to try and have this rule overturned. And we think we will win because the government cannot license your speaking.
Indeed, that is the case, Tonya. That our case is based on the First Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. And those hallowed words will sound very hollow here in Washington if we do not win our case to overturn the law that requires us to be licensed to speak. That same law does not require a journalist to be licensed to speak. That same law does not require a politician to be licensed to speak. But we, trying to eke out a living on a Segway tour, must speak only when we are licensed.
We've been running this business in DC now for some 6 years, and all we do is take tourists around DC, tell them about the buildings and points of interest, and we think this should be a right that we have based on the First Amendment.
The implications of this law go a little further. We have in the past hired students from our various universities to give them a transition from school life to real life. Now we are being told those students have to seek a license also. We're being told we cannot use the word sightseeing unless our business is licensed to do so.